On October 15, 1994, a long-haul driver walked into a gravel lot behind a truck plaza in Coralee, Indiana, and found a 23-year-old woman beaten to death in the stones, and the only thing that ever sent a man to prison for it was a single hair somebody looked at under a microscope.
Who looked at?
Looked at, never tested. A lab tech put it on a slide, called it consistent with the boyfriend, and a jury gave Dale Voss the rest of his life.
One hair did all that.
One hair. And 30 years later, it turned out the hair was telling the truth and lying at the same time. Welcome back to The Cold File. I'm Marcus Reed.
And I'm Dr. Christy Hart. Call me Christy. I read this autopsy report twice, Marcus, because there's one line in it everybody in 1994 read and just walked right past. We'll get there. It changes the whole thing.
You came in already chewing on it. I could see it when you sat down. You had that look you get when the file's bigger than the verdict.
Because it is. So let me start where the cops should have. Not with the boyfriend, with her, with Coralee.
Coralee's a stone town. 7,000 people, give or take, wedged between two ridges in southern Indiana. The whole economy runs on the quarry, limestone, gravel haulers, and the truck plazas out by the interstate that feed the rigs going through.
And it's one of those towns where everybody knows which families own and which families work.
That line decides everything there. Whose kid you are tells people what you're allowed to be. Coralee Madsen was on the working side of it, daughter of a gravel hauler, raised 3 streets off the quarry road.
Tell me about her, not the case file her, the actual person.
Soft-spoken, 23 years old, worked the overnight counter at the Halcombe Truck Plaza, 11 at night to whenever the morning guy showed. The people who knew her all used the same word, gentle.
Overnight clerk, that's a hard, lonely shift.
It is, but she wanted it. The overnights paid a differential, and Coralee was saving. She had a coffee can in her closet, literally a can, and a corkboard full of apartment listings 2 towns over, in Bedford.
Oh, she was leaving. She was actively planning to get out.
Circling listings, pricing first and last. Her mother told the original detectives Coralee said she'd be gone by spring.
That detail breaks my heart a little, Marcus, and I'll tell you why. A young woman quietly building an exit door, that's somebody with a future she could already see. That is not a person spiraling. That's a person climbing.
Which matters for the investigation, because climbing out victims usually have one thing in their orbit they're being careful about.
A secret.
Hold that. We'll earn it.
Who did she work with? Somebody on those overnights had to know her.
Assistant manager named Roy Pell closed most nights with her. And there were the regulars, the drivers who ran the same routes, stopped the same hours. Coralee knew their orders. Pell described her as the kind of clerk who'd hold a guy's coffee warm if she saw his rig pulling in.
So she's visible. Lots of eyes on her, lots of foot traffic, but all of it transient. Strangers passing through.
That's the texture of the place. And here's the thing. A coworker said that I want you to sit with, because the 1994 detectives heard it and did nothing.
Go.
A young woman who worked the dayside counter, Denise, told police that Coralee had been sick every morning that fall, pale, running to the bathroom, and that Coralee had circled an appointment on the wall calendar in the break room.
Sick every morning. Marcus. Every morning?
Every morning, that fall.
Okay, I'm not going to pretend I can't add. A lot of people listening just did the same math I did. We're going to let the evidence say it out loud later, but, keep going. What else was in her world?
In her purse, recovered the morning she was found, there was a department store receipt, dated October 11th, 3 days before she died. One of the line items, an infant set.
Baby clothes.
Baby clothes. And the 1994 file has a one-word margin note next to it. Gift.
Somebody decided it was a gift for a friend and closed the drawer on it.
Closed the drawer.
That's the thing about assumptions in a death investigation. They're not neutral. Every assumption you make is a door you nail shut, and they nailed that one shut without even checking whose baby it might be.
Which is the whole story of this case, honestly. Doors nailed shut.
All right, walk me through that night, October 14th.
Coralee clocks out at 11:40 in the evening. Roy Pell, the assistant manager, sees her at her car. That's the last confirmed sighting of her alive. Her car's parked at the side of the main lot.
And Pell's statement, there's something in it, isn't there? You flagged it.
There is. In his original statement, Pell mentions a car, quote, a nice newer sedan, idling at the edge of the overflow lot at closing. He noticed it because it didn't fit. Truck Plaza at midnight, you get rigs, you get beaters, you get farm trucks. You don't get a clean late model sedan just sitting.
A nice car that doesn't belong, idling, at the exact place she ends up dead.
And it was never traced. Not the make beyond sedan, not the plate, nothing. It's in the file, and then it just evaporates.
Why? Why does a detail like that evaporate?
Because by the time anyone could have chased it, they already had their guy. And that's the disease in this case, Christy. They found their answer in 48 hours and stopped asking questions.
6:05 in the morning the next day. Who finds her?
A long-haul driver pulling into the overflow to catch a few hours of sleep. He walks out toward the tree line to stretch, and there she is, in the gravel. She'd been beaten to death. I'm not going to dress that up.
Blunt force?
Blunt force. The medical examiner's wording was a sustained beating. Multiple blows, defensive injuries on her hands and forearms.
Defensive wounds. So she fought. She saw it coming and she tried to protect herself.
She fought hard, and that matters enormously, because when somebody fights, they grab, they scratch, they take a piece of their attacker with them.
Under the fingernails.
Under the fingernails. The medical examiner did the right thing in 1994, scraped under each nail, preserved the scrapings, sealed them, froze them. That medical examiner, whatever else went wrong here, gave the future a fighting chance.
And nobody used it for 30 years.
Sat in a freezer. We'll come back to it.
You said there's a line in the autopsy. The one I read twice.
Say it.
Coralee was 8 weeks pregnant.
8 weeks. It's one line in the report. One. And there's no follow-up. No paternity question, no who's the father, no interview built around it. It's recorded the way you'd record her height.
Marcus, that is okay. As a profiler, pregnancy in a homicide victim is not a footnote. It's a flashing light. It reorganizes your entire suspect pool. Because now you're not just asking who was angry at her, you're asking who had something to lose if she stayed pregnant.
And in 1994, nobody asked it.
The morning sickness. The baby clothes 3 days before she died. The pregnancy at autopsy. Those aren't three things. Those are one thing said 3 times, and a room full of investigators heard it 3 times and wrote gift in the margin.
You see why I wanted you on this one.
So who do they grab? Tell me about Dale Voss.
Dale Voss, 26 years old, quarry laborer, Coralee's ex-boyfriend. They dated a couple of years, broken up maybe 8 months before. And Dale had a record, a prior assault charge from a bar fight.
So on paper, he's the obvious read.
On paper, he's gift-wrapped. Volatile ex prior for violence. And this is the kicker. Witnesses saw Dale and Coralee arguing loudly outside the plaza just days before she was killed.
Okay, what was the argument about? Because that actually matters?
Nobody nailed it down. People heard raised voices, heard Dale say something like, "You're really doing this?" and Coralee tell him to leave it alone.
Huh, you're really doing this? That's interesting, and not in the way the cops thought.
Tell me how you hear it.
They heard a jealous ex threatening her. But you're really doing this? That's not necessarily a man making a threat. That can just as easily be a man who's worried about her, a man who knows something. Will hold it, but file it.
Filed. Now here's the machine that convicted him. October 18th, a single brown hair is recovered from Coralee's jacket. It goes to the county crime lab, and the lab does what labs did then, microscopic hair comparison.
Walk people through what that actually is, because the name makes it sound more scientific than it is.
A technician puts the unknown hair on one slide and a known hair from your suspect on another, looks at them side by side under a comparison microscope, and judges whether they look alike. Color, thickness, the pattern of the pigment, the shape of the core.
By eye.
By eye. And then they testify with words like consistent with or microscopically consistent, which a jury hears as match.
But it's not a match. It can't be. 2 strangers can have hairs that look identical under a scope.
Correct. And we know now the federal review of this technique, years later, found error rates that should make your stomach drop. Examiners overstating these as good as fingerprints when they were nothing of the kind. It's junk science. It got people executed.
And the hair from Coralee's jacket, they put it next to Dale's.
And called it consistent. November 2nd, 1994, Dale Voss is arrested for murder.
On a hair somebody eyeballed.
On a hair somebody eyeballed.
Here's my problem already, Marcus, and it's a profiler problem before it's a forensic one. The hair was on her jacket, not under her nails, not clenched in her hand, on her jacket.
Say more.
A hair on a jacket is the weakest kind of contact evidence there is. It's transfer. People shed 40, 100 hairs a day. If Dale dated her for 2 years, rode in her car, sat on her couch, his hair could be on a jacket she owned without him being within a mile of that gravel lot.
You just argued the defense's case better than the defense did in 1995.
Because it's obvious. It should have been obvious then.
Should have been, wasn't. Because here's the thing about tunnel vision. Once you've decided who did it, every piece of evidence stops being a question and starts being a confirmation. The hair didn't prove Dale was there, it confirmed what they already believed.
That's the most dangerous sentence in your whole profession, you know that?
I worked 22 years to learn it. Coralee paid for the lesson before I ever did.
So what was the trial? What did the state actually put in front of the jury?
3 things, and they're all soft. 1. The hair, consistent with Dale. 2. The public argument days before, painted as a jealous, controlling ex escalating. 3. Dale's prior assault, to establish he was a violent man.
No murder weapon?
No weapon ever recovered.
No eyewitness to the act?
None.
His own statement?
Dale said he was home alone that night. No alibi, which the prosecution turned into a sword. No one can confirm where he was. But think about that. He's a single quarry laborer who lived alone. Of course, no one could confirm it. Most innocent people on a Tuesday night can't.
And did Dale ever waver? Confess? Half confess? Anything?
Never. Maintained from the first interview to the last day of trial. I didn't touch her. I loved her. I would never. March 9th, 1995. Convicted of murder. Sentenced to life.
On a hair and a bad reputation.
On a hair and a bad reputation.
You said something at the top that I haven't let go of. The security tape.
Yeah. The Halcombe Plaza had an overnight security camera covering the lot. There was a tape from October 14th that was logged into evidence.
Logged in, so they had it.
They had it. The evidence log shows it checked in. There is no record anyone ever watched it. And by the time of trial, it's not in the box.
Wait. The tape that may have literally recorded the murder and the sedan was checked into evidence and then nobody played it and then it's gone?
That's the chain, or the broken chain.
Marcus, is that incompetence or is that something worse?
I want to be careful here. I've seen evidence go missing through pure sloppiness more times than through malice. Tapes got reused, boxes got mislabeled, things fell behind shelves for decades. So my honest professional answer is I can't prove it was hidden, but I can tell you the effect was the same as if someone had hidden it. The one piece of evidence that didn't depend on anybody's eyeball was the one piece that disappeared.
And in a quarry town where one family owns the economy, I'm just going to say the words, access matters.
It does. Hold the family thought. We're getting there, and I want it to land in the right order.
So Dale goes to prison, and then what, 30 years of nothing?
30 years of Dale Voss saying the same 5 words. I didn't do it. He files appeals. They fail. He writes letters. Most of them go nowhere. The hair conviction holds because nobody's looking at hair science yet.
When does that change?
Nationally, it starts changing in the 2010s. There's a massive review of microscopic hair comparison testimony, thousands of cases flagged, convictions where examiners had overstated the science get pulled back into the light, and eventually, a state innocence clinic, law students, and a couple of staff attorneys, they're combing old Indiana cases for exactly this fact pattern, a conviction that rests on a hair match and not much else.
And Dale's case lights up like a Christmas tree.
It checks every box. They take it. And they go looking for something, anything, that was preserved and could be DNA tested. Because in 1994, they tested nothing with real DNA. The technology was barely out of the gate.
The fingernail scrapings.
The fingernail scrapings, still in the freezer, 30 years.
April 22nd, 24. That's the date on the release order.
The clinic gets a court order to release the sealed scrapings for DNA testing. And I want to give credit where it's due. Fighting to get old evidence unsealed and tested is a grind. Prosecutors fight it. There's paperwork. There's chain of custody review. There's a judge who has to decide it's worth disturbing a 30-year-old conviction.
Why would a prosecutor fight testing? If you're confident you got the right guy, you test it and you win.
That's the rational view, and it's the right one. But institutions don't love admitting error. A 30-year-old murder conviction is somebody's career, somebody's closed case, somebody's promise to a family. Reopening it is expensive in every way that isn't justice.
So the system's incentive is to keep the door nailed shut.
The system's incentive is inertia. The clinic pushed against it and won the order.
And then they wait for the lab.
January 30th, 25. The results come back.
Tell me exactly what the scrapings said.
2 things. 1, a full male DNA profile. Clean, complete, single source under her nails. This is the man she fought. The skin she tore loose while she was being beaten to death.
And 2?
2, it excluded Dale Voss completely. Not inconclusive, not can't rule out. Excluded. The man under Coralee's fingernails was not Dale Voss. Could never have been Dale Voss.
30 years. He served 30 years, and the proof he didn't do it was sitting frozen in a county evidence room the entire time.
The whole time.
I need a second with that, honestly, because here's what gets me. The medical examiner did everything right. The science to read it existed by the late 1990s. The only thing missing for 30 years was someone deciding to look. The case was never unsolvable. It was unlooked at.
That's the sentence for the headstone of this whole investigation, unlooked at.
Okay, so they have a full profile and it's not Dale. Now what? They don't have a name yet. Whose is it?
Right, a profile is just a code until you can attach it to a person. In 1994, you'd run it against a criminal database, and if your guy wasn't in there, dead end. But this is 25. So they do investigative genealogy, they upload the profile to a genealogy database, the kind people use to find cousins and build family trees.
And it finds relatives of the killer, even if the killer himself never gave a sample.
Exactly. You don't need the man, you need his cousins. The database returns partial matches, relatives, and a genealogist builds the tree backward and forward until the branches close in on one family.
And here's where I want to slow you down, because there's a second piece of evidence I've been holding, and I think it lands right here: the fetal tissue.
Go ahead, you've earned it.
The medical examiner in 1994 preserved fetal tissue from the 8-week pregnancy. It was archived with the autopsy materials, and it sat there just like the scrapings.
And the clinic tests it too.
They test it for paternity. To answer the question nobody asked in 1994, who was the father of Coralee's baby?
And what comes back?
The father of the child and the man under her fingernails are the same person.
The same man.
The father of her baby is the man who beat her to death. And Marcus, the baby clothes, the infant set she bought 3 days before she died, the one somebody wrote gift next to, the clothes weren't for a friend.
They were never for a friend.
She was buying for her own child. A 23-year-old woman, 8 weeks along, quietly buying a little outfit for a baby she was planning to raise. And the father of that baby put her in the gravel.
That's the case. That's the real case. And it took 30 years for anyone to say it out loud.
So now I have to ask the obvious question, and it's the whole case. Who is he? Whose DNA is under her nails and inside that pregnancy?
March 11th, 25. The genealogy work narrows to one local family, and then to one man inside it, a name that does not appear anywhere in the 1994 file. Not as a suspect, not as a witness, not as a person of interest, nowhere.
Give me the name.
Garrett Lind.
Lind, as in?
As in the family that owns the quarry. Garrett Lind was the son of the quarry's owner, the heir. The kid who, in 1994, was set to inherit the company that employed half of Coralee.
The owning side of the line.
The owning side of the line, and Coralee Madsen was the working side, daughter of a gravel hauler, overnight clerk at a truck plaza. His family's trucks rolled through.
Oh, this is the oldest story in the world, isn't it? And it's still the deadliest one.
Here's how it fits together, and I want to lay it out clean because for 30 years nobody got to. Coralee was quietly involved with Garrett Lind. Quietly, that word matters. Nobody in her life knew, or almost nobody, because she was protecting him.
That's the trait that isolated her. She kept the relationship secret to protect the man, which meant when things turned, she had no one to turn to. No friend who could say, I saw them together. Her secrecy became his cover.
And in 1994, Garrett had just gotten engaged into money, a wealthy family from another county, a marriage that would join the quarry to more money and lock in his whole future.
And then the overnight clerk he'd been sleeping with turns up pregnant.
8 weeks pregnant, with his child, buying baby clothes. Not going away, not getting rid of it, planning to keep it, and, here's the threat, planning to leave Coralee, circling apartments in Bedford.
Wait, walk through why her leaving makes it worse for him, not better? Because intuitively you'd think him gone, problem gone.
Because a woman who leaves with a secret is a woman he can't control anymore. In Coralee, he owns the room. Everybody works for his family. Her word against his in that town, she loses. But in Bedford, 2 towns over, raising his child, filing for support, telling whoever she wants. Now there's a paternity claim with his name on it, traveling around outside the circle where he's king.
So her exit door, the hopeful thing, the climbing out thing, that's exactly what signs her death warrant.
That's exactly what makes her dangerous to him. As long as she's the quiet clerk who'll keep his secret, she's manageable. The second she's an independent woman with his baby and a forwarding address, his engagement, his inheritance, his standing, all of it's exposed.
Money and reputation, that's the motive. It's not passion, it's not jealousy, it's a balance sheet.
It's a balance sheet with a heartbeat on it.
So take me back to that night now, knowing what we know, reconstruct it.
Coralee clocks out 11:40. Roy Pell sees her at her car and goes back inside. And there's the sedan, the nice newer sedan, idling at the edge of the overflow lot. The one that didn't belong. The one nobody traced.
Garrett's car.
Consistent with Garrett. A quarry owner's son drives a clean late-model sedan, not a beater. He's waiting where the lights are bad, behind the plaza, in the overflow. They have a conversation. Maybe it's the continuation of an argument that had been building. Remember the morning sickness, the baby clothes, the appointment circled on the calendar. This isn't sudden. She's been pregnant for weeks. They've been fighting about it for weeks.
You're really doing this?
And there's your line. Now, hear it again. The loud argument outside the plaza days earlier, the one they pinned on Dale.
Oh, you think that wasn't Dale?
I think there's a real chance the argument witnesses have heard wasn't the ex at all, or wasn't only the ex. People in that lot at night, bad light, they hear raised voices and a man, and they fill in the name they later read in the paper. You're really doing this, keeping the baby, leaving town, that's Garrett's fight, not Dale's.
And memory is suggestible. Once Dale's arrested and it's in the news, witnesses unconsciously reshape what they heard to fit the man in handcuffs. I see it constantly. The arrest contaminates the memory.
So that night, in the overflow lot, it goes past arguing. She won't back down. She's keeping it, she's leaving, and he can't allow either. And he beats her to death. Sustained, not one panic blow. The medical examiner said sustained, with defensive wounds.
She fought him, and in fighting him, she scratched him and took his skin under her nails, and that's the man. The only physical truth in this whole case that couldn't be eyeballed wrong.
And then he gets in the clean sedan and he drives away. And nobody chases the car. Because within 48 hours, they've got the volatile ex and the hair.
So let's talk about the hair, because here's the part that's almost diabolical in how neat it is. The hair was real. It really was Dale's.
Almost certainly Dale's, that's the cruel twist. The microscopic comparison wasn't even a false match in the usual sense. Odds are that hair genuinely shed from Dale Voss.
Because he'd ridden in her car for 2 years, sat in her passenger seat 100 times. His hair's all over a jacket she kept in that car.
Innocent transfer. The hair told the truth. Dale's DNA was in Coralee's world, and the system turned a true, innocent fact into a murder conviction. The hair didn't lie. The interpretation lead.
That's what I meant at the very top, Marcus, telling the truth and lying at the same time. The hair was Dale's, and Dale was innocent. Both true, and junk science can't hold two true things at once, so it just picked the one that fit the arrest.
And a real man went to a real prison for 30 real years, on the strength of a hair that proved only that two people once dated.
I want to name the psychology of what the investigators did, because I don't think it was a conspiracy. I think it was something more ordinary and more dangerous.
Go.
Confirmation bias plus social gravity. The confirmation bias is the tunnel vision. They had a suspect who felt right, so every fact got read as proof. But the social gravity is the collie part. Who do you investigate in a town where one family signs half the paychecks, not the owner's son? Your brain doesn't even put him on the board. He's not a suspect because he's not suspect-shaped to that town.
And that's how a man's name never gets written down, not because someone erased it, because no one ever wrote it.
The most powerful suspect in the case was invisible. Not hidden, invisible. The town's whole structure made him unseeable.
And here's the part that I think is going to sit in people's chests. While Dale Voss was in prison, Garrett Lind was living in Coralee, in plain sight.
He never left.
Never left. He married into the money, he took over the quarry when his father stepped back. For 30 years, Garrett Lind ran the company that employed half the town, sat on local boards, went to the same diner, drove down the same quarry road past the same truck plaza where he killed her.
And did the engagement even survive? Was it all worth it?
The marriage happened. Whether it lasted, whether it was happy, almost beside the point. He killed her to protect a future, and then he lived that future, out loud, for 3 decades.
That's the detail that makes me coldest, not the violence, the ordinariness afterward. He went to work, he had dinner. A man who beat a pregnant woman to death and then ran a business for 30 years, civic and respectable, while the man he framed by accident grew old in a cell.
Framed by accident. That's a strange phrase, but it's the right one. Nobody planted that hair. Garrett didn't frame Dale. The system framed Dale on Garrett's behalf, for free. And Garrett just had to stay quiet and let it.
Which is its own kind of evil. He watched another man get charged with his murder and he said nothing. Every day Dale sat in prison was a day Garrett chose his own freedom over an innocent man's life. That's not a moment of panic anymore. That's 30 years of cold, continuous choosing.
The murder was minutes. The cover-up was 3 decades.
Let's come back to Dale because I don't want him to be a footnote in his own exoneration. What happens to him now? He was 26 when they took him. He's what, 56?
56, 57 by the time the DNA clears him. He went in a young man and he's coming out near 60. With the exclusion from the scrapings and the genealogy identification, The conviction can't stand. The Innocence Clinic moves to vacate, and given the DNA, it's not really a contest anymore.
So he's released, he's exonerated.
Released. And I want to be precise about what that word does and doesn't fix. The state can open a door, it can't give him back the 30 years, it can't give him the marriage he didn't have, the kids he didn't have, the parents who died while he was inside, still labeled a murderer in their own town.
Did his parents live to see it?
His mother passed while he was still in. His father lived just long enough to know the testing was happening, not long enough to see the result. That's the timeline cruelty of these cases. The truth arrives, but it arrives at all the wrong funerals.
God, and the town? Does Coralee believe it? Because that's its own battle. A town that needs the quarry doesn't necessarily want to believe the quarry's owner is a killer.
That's the fight that's still live. DNA is DNA. The science isn't really debatable. But belief is social, like you said. Some people in Coralee will accept it. Some will decide it's the innocence lawyers twisting things. Because to accept it, they'd have to accept that their whole town let it happen.
The structure protects itself even after it's exposed. Can I run the profile straight through? Top to bottom the way I'd present it? Because now that we have the name, I want to show how perfectly Garrett fits and how Dale never did.
Please. This is the part you do better than anyone.
Start with motive, because motive is the spine. Dale Voss's supposed motive was jealousy, the spurned ex. But here's the problem the cops never reckoned with. They'd been broken up 8 months. Jealousy is hot and it's fast. It flares and it kills in week 1, week 2. It does not usually wait 8 months and then commit a sustained, deliberate beating in a planned location.
8 months is cold for a crime of passion.
Ice cold. Now Garrett's motive isn't passion at all, it's instrumental. She represents a concrete escalating threat to specific assets, an engagement, an inheritance, a reputation in a town where his name is the brand. Instrumental motives build. They get worse as the threat gets closer. And her threat was getting closer every single day. Bigger belly, apartment listings, baby clothes, there's a clock on it.
The pregnancy is the clock.
The pregnancy is a countdown he can see. That's why the timing makes sense for Garrett and never made sense for Dale. The murder happens at 8 weeks, right at the window where it's becoming undeniable and she's making moves to leave. That's not jealousy's timeline. That's a man acting before a deadline.
Keep going. The method.
The method tells you about the relationship between killer and victim. This wasn't a weapon brought to the scene. No gun, no knife recovered. Nothing premeditated in the hardware sense. It was hands and blunt force, sustained, with her fighting back. That's intimate partner violence. That's rage at someone you know, someone whose continued existence is the problem. You don't beat a stranger like that, you beat someone you're entangled with.
And the location.
The location is brilliant, in the worst way, and it points right at Garrett. The overflow lot behind the plaza, bad lighting, transient witnesses, the one place she'd be alone at midnight on a schedule he could predict. He knew her shift. He knew the lot. He knew the sedan wouldn't get a second look there because, actually no, it did get a second look. Roy Pell clocked it, but it didn't matter because Pell didn't know whose it was.
And he knew the town would look at the ex, not at him.
That's the final piece. The smartest thing Garrett did wasn't anything he did at the scene. It was who he was. He let his own social position do the cover-up. He didn't have to plant evidence or fabricate an alibi. He just had to be the last person anyone would suspect in a town engineered to never suspect him.
A perfect crime that wasn't perfect at all. It just happened in a place where nobody was allowed to look up.
Go back to the circled appointment for me. On the break room calendar, do we know what it was?
We can't confirm it 30 years later. But read in context. Morning sickness all fall. 8 weeks pregnant at death. Baby clothes 3 days prior. A circled medical appointment fits a prenatal visit. A young woman managing a pregnancy she's keeping quiet, on her own.
On her own. That's the word that keeps coming back. She did all of this alone. Secret relationship, secret pregnancy, planning a secret exit. Every load-bearing wall in her life she was carrying by herself to protect him.
And he used every bit of that isolation. The secrecy she maintained out of loyalty became the thing that let him kill her without a single person in her life able to say, "Ask Garrett Lind."
It's the cruelest mechanism in the case. Her decency is what made her killable. If she'd told one friend, there'd have been a name to give the police in 1994.
And Dale Voss never goes to prison.
2 lives. Hers ended, his erased, both of them sacrificed to one man's secret.
Let me address the rational floor under all of this, because I always want to, and because you and I have done enough of these to know listeners are sitting there going, wait, could there be another explanation? Could the DNA be wrong? Could the genealogy be a coincidence?
Good. Pressure test it. I want it airtight.
So the fingernail scrapings give a full, single-source male profile. Not a mixture, not a partial. One man's complete DNA, the man she fought. That excludes Dale to a scientific certainty. There's no eyeballing it, no consistent with. It's exclusion.
And the genealogy isn't a vibe, it's math.
It's math. The upload returns relatives, the tree gets built, and it converges on one family and one man old enough and present enough to have been there in 1994. And then this is the lock, the fetal tissue. The paternity test ties the father of her child to the same profile as the scrapings. Two independent biological samples, the skin under her nails and the child inside her, point to one man.
You couldn't engineer a tighter knot. The odds of those two samples randomly matching an unrelated person are essentially nil.
Essentially nil. So no, this isn't a haunted truck plaza, unexplainable mystery. It's the opposite. It's the most explainable thing in the world, the moment anyone looked. A man got a woman pregnant, the pregnancy threatened his money and his marriage, and he killed her to make the threat go away. Oldest motive there is, we just needed 21st century tools to see a 1994 crime clearly.
The mystery was never in the evidence. The mystery was manufactured by who got looked at and who didn't.
That's the whole show right there.
So what happens to Garrett Linday now? March 11th, 25, the profile comes back to his name. Then what?
Here's where I have to manage expectations. Because it's not a television ending. A genealogy hit and a 30-year-old crime don't automatically equal an arrest the next morning. Investigators have to confirm it directly, get a known sample from Garrett himself, by consent or by warrant, and match it to the scrapings 1-to-1. The genealogy points the finger, the confirmation sample makes the case.
And a man with money and a town behind him is going to fight that every inch.
Every inch. He can lawyer up, he can challenge the genealogy methodology, he can argue the relationship, and even the pregnancy don't prove he was in that lot. A good defense attorney will say, fine, he was the father. That's not the same as the killer.
Except the scrapings. The father and the man under her nails are the same person. That's not he was the father. That's the father's skin was under her fingernails while she was being beaten to death.
That's the bridge from lover to killer, and it's a strong one. Defensive wounds, his DNA and the scraping single source. That's a man she was clawing at in her last minutes. There's no innocent reason for the father of her baby to be under her nails in a gravel lot at midnight.
So you think it holds?
I think it's the strongest cold case evidence I've seen us discuss on this show. But strong and convicted aren't the same word, and I've watched too many cases to promise the second one. What I'll say is, for the first time in 30 years, the right man's name is written down. And that's not nothing. For 30 years, it wasn't written anywhere.
I keep coming back to that receipt, the infant set, because somebody in 24 circled it in red. After 30 years of it being a gift.
One of the clinic investigators. When they finally read the file the right way around, pregnancy first, suspect last, every old dismissed detail flipped meaning. The receipt stopped being a gift, the morning sickness stopped being a stomach bug, the circled calendar date stopped being an errand and became an appointment. The sedan stopped being a stray car and became the getaway.
Nothing new was discovered. The same file, reread in the right order, told a completely different story.
That's what kills me as an old homicide guy. We didn't need a single piece of evidence in 25 that didn't physically exist in 1994. The pregnancy, the receipt, the calendar, the sedan, the scrapings, the fetal tissue, it was all there, all of it, in the box. The only thing that changed was that somebody finally refused to assume.
The case wasn't cold, it was just facing the wrong direction.
Facing Dale, when it should have been facing the man in the sedan the whole time.
Can I say the thing I can't stop thinking about? The apartments in Bedford.
Say it.
She was 23. She had a coffee can of savings and a corkboard of listings and a baby coming and a plan to drive 2 towns over and start a life where her name wasn't decided by which side of the quarry she was born on. She was so close to out, and the exit she was building, that's the exact thing that got her killed, because he could not control her once she crossed that town line.
She almost made it. That's the part that doesn't have a forensic explanation. She just almost made it.
And the man who stopped her drove home, married up, and ran the quarry for 30 years, while the wrong man aged into an old man in a cell for loving her.
When you put it in one sentence, it's almost unbearable. Which is why for 30 years, nobody put it in one sentence. I want to play something. Back in 1994, after Dale's arrest, the sheriff held a press conference. This is the kind of confident soundbite that closes a town's mind.
Authorities in Cawley say the arrest of 26-year-old Dale Voss brings a swift resolution to the killing of Coralee Madsen, with the sheriff citing forensic hair evidence linking Voss to the scene and calling the case, quote, as solid as they come.
As solid as they come. On a hair somebody looked at.
That sentence right there did 30 years of damage. Once the sheriff says solid as they come on the courthouse steps, the town files it under solved and never reopens the drawer.
And the confidence is the trap. Real forensic certainty is careful and hedged. It was the overconfidence that should have been the warning sign. As solid as they come, about a microscopic hair comparison is, scientifically, almost the opposite of true.
The certainty was the tell.
And the modern coverage, when the DNA came back.
Very different tone. Here's the contemporary report when the conviction was vacated.
After 30 years behind bars, Dale Voss walked free today, exonerated by DNA evidence in the 1994 killing of Coralee Madsen, as investigators confirm a new genetic match has redirected the long cold case toward a name never named in the original investigation.
A name never named. That's the whole tragedy compressed into 4 words.
30 years between those two broadcasts. Same case, same evidence box, opposite truths.
And the only thing between them was a freezer and a question nobody asked until 24. I want to give the Innocence Clinic their moment, because in a case this full of people who failed, they're the ones who didn't.
They earned it. Picture the work. Law students, mostly going through decades of old convictions looking for the fingerprint of bad hair science. They find Dale's case. They read a 30-year-old file with fresh eyes. Eyes that aren't invested in the original arrest being right.
That's the key, isn't it? Fresh eyes with no stake in the old answer.
That's everything. The original detectives needed Dale to be guilty. It was their case. Their close, their press conference. The clinic needed nothing except the truth. They had no quarry to protect, no town to face at the diner, no career riding on the verdict. So they could afford to ask the questions Coralee couldn't.
Like, who's the father?
Like, who's the father? A question that was answerable in 1994 with a single interview and a little courage, and nobody asked it for 30 years. And a 22-year-old law student asked it on a Tuesday, and it cracked the whole thing open.
There's something almost unbearable and also kind of beautiful about that. The case didn't need a genius. It needed someone who wasn't afraid of the answer.
In a town built on not being able to afford the answer, the people who solved it were the ones with nothing to lose by knowing it.
Let me push on one thing, because I want us to be fair, even to the failures. Could the 1994 detectives have realistically gotten there, or are we judging them with 30 years of hindsight?
Fair question, and I want to answer it honestly, because I was a detective in that era. Could they have DNA tested the scrapings in 1994? Barely. The tech was crude and they'd have needed a reason to spend the money. So I won't crucify them for not running genealogy that didn't exist.
But
But they didn't need DNA to do their jobs. They had a pregnant victim and they never asked who the father was. That's not a technology failure. That's a thinking failure. They had a nice newer sedan at the scene and never traced it. That's not technology. That's legwork they chose not to do. They had a security tape and never watched it. They had baby clothes and wrote gift. Every one of those is a 1994 failure with 1994 tools.
so the hindsight defense only goes so far.
It covers the DNA. It does not cover the laziness and the tunnel vision. They didn't fail because the science wasn't ready. They failed because they stopped looking the second they had a man they were comfortable convicting.
And comfortable is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Comfortable means he was the working class ex with a record, not the owner's son.
Comfortable means nobody important got upset when they arrested Dale Voss. That's the quiet engine under the whole thing. The path of least resistance in Coralee ran straight through the man with the least power.
Can I do victimology one more pass? Because I think Coralee deserves to be more than the secret she was forced to keep.
Go ahead.
Here's who she actually was. A young woman who worked the hardest, loneliest shift there is on purpose because it paid more and got her out faster. Who kept a man's coffee warm when she saw his rig coming. Who saved cash in a can like somebody's grandmother. Who got pregnant young and scared and decided, quietly, without telling anyone, without asking anyone to rescue her, to keep her baby and build a life 2 towns over. That's not a victim. That's a person with more spine than anyone around her.
She was doing it all herself.
All herself. And I think it's important to say she didn't keep the secret because she was naive. She kept it because she was protecting him. That's a choice a generous person makes. And the man she was generous to repaid that generosity by using it as the cover for her murder. The very thing that made her good is the thing he weaponized.
You always bring it back to her. I appreciate that. In the file, she's a body and a slide and an autopsy line. She was a person 2 months from a new apartment with a baby coming.
Coralee Madsen, 23. Almost out.
And I don't want to lose Dale either, because the closing of this case is 2 injustices, not 1. There's the murder of Coralee, and there's the slow, quiet, decades-long destruction of a man who simply happened to have dated her and have a bad temper in a bar once.
What was Dale like by the accounts now, after 30 years?
The people working his case describe a man who held on to the same sentence for 3 decades and never embellished it. He never invented a confession to get parole, and that's a real thing, by the way. Innocent men sometimes falsely confess at parole hearings because the board wants remorse, and if you keep insisting you're innocent, they keep you in.
Wait, so maintaining his innocence may have kept him in longer?
Almost certainly. A parole board wants to hear you take responsibility. Dale wouldn't take responsibility for something he didn't do. So the system read his honesty as a lack of remorse and kept the door shut. His truth-telling was punished.
That is its own gut punch. The one thing he had that he was telling the truth was the thing that cost him years.
The system was built to reward the guilty who perform contrition and punish the innocent who refused to lie. Dale refused to lie for 30 years, and it cost him.
And now he's out, near 60, with an apology that can't buy back a single year.
Whatever compensation the state pays, and these cases sometimes carry compensation statutes. It's a number, it isn't 30 years.
Let me make sure the linchpin is crystal clear for everyone, because it's the single most important fact in the case, and it's easy to glide past. 2 samples. The skin under her fingernails and the tissue of the pregnancy, independently tested. And they match each other, and they match one man. And that man is not Dale Voss.
2 roads, 1 destination. The man she fought and the man who fathered her child are one person, and that person was never looked at.
And once you know they're the same person, the entire defense theory collapses, because the only way the father's skin is under the nails of a woman beaten to death is if the father did the beating. There's no version where Garrett is the innocent ex-lover and someone else killed her. The biology won't allow it.
The biology closed the door that the town held open for 30 years.
I love a piece of evidence that can't be argued with. After a case this full of things people argued into the wrong shape, the hair, the argument, the sedan, it comes down to 2 samples that just quietly say the same name.
No eyeballing, no consistent with, just the name.
So where does it stand today as we're recording? Is Garrett Linde charged?
As of where this case sits, the conviction against Dale Voss is vacated, he's a free and exonerated man, and the investigation has formally turned toward Garrett Linde with the confirmation process underway. The genealogy named him. The next step is the direct 1-to-1 sample and a charging decision.
And you'd put money on it?
I'd put money on the evidence. Whether a quarry-owning family in a town that depends on them can slow it, complicate it, drag it out, that's the part I can't predict. Money buys time, and time is the one thing that's already been weaponized in this case.
30 years of time, all of it spent on the wrong man.
So when people ask me, is it solved? Here's my honest answer. The truth is solved. Completely. We know exactly what happened, why, and who. Whether justice gets solved is a different question, and it's still open.
The truth and the justice came apart in 1995, and they still haven't found each other.
That's the case in a sentence.
I want to end on the hair because it's where we started. That slide, 2 inches of glass, 1 word in grease pencil, 1 brown hair. For 30 years, it was the whole case.
And here's the final irony of it, Christy. That hair was real. It was honest. It really did come from Dale Voss. The hair never lied to anybody.
The people who read it lied. Or failed. The hair just sat there being true, and they built a false world on top of it.
Microscopic hair comparison didn't put Dale away. Certainty did. The willingness to look at one true, meaningless fact and call it as solid as they come.
And meanwhile, the truly meaningful evidence, the scrapings, the fetal tissue, sat frozen and silent because it required someone to ask a harder question than the town wanted to answer.
The loud evidence was wrong, the quiet evidence was right, and it took 30 years for anyone to listen to the quiet.
30 years for a hair, and the hair never even did anything wrong. She circled apartments in Bedford and bought a tiny outfit for a baby she meant to keep. Coralee was almost gone, almost free.
The truth of this one is closed. Whether the courtroom ever catches up is the part still hanging.
Next week, stay with us for one that sat in the dark even longer than this, where the answer wasn't hiding, it was just waiting decades for somebody to finally pick it up and read it the right way. If a case like this one is why you're here, follow the show so the next one finds you. I'll see you then.